And I knew immediately that there was really something special here. And I think for anyone who's read the book, it's not like these principles are new principles. Like, we know what good leadership looks like. You got to listen, you got to communicate effectively, you got to be a good team player, you have to be accountable. Like, we know what those things look like. So it wasn't as if there was some like brand new concept that Leif and Jocko came up with, but there was something really special about how they told the story and how they taught it that really connected and resonated with me. And Leif Babin showed up with this idea of Echelon Front and what he wanted to do and his vision for this book that he was writing. And it turned out that there was an opportunity for me to join them part-time. And I really joined sort of in an admin capacity. It was a couple steps behind where I was in my career, but I really believed in Leif and Jocko and the mission. And I'm so glad I took the opportunity, because a year later, the book came out, and now I've been with the company for 7 years. So I read that first manuscript. I knew immediately that this was something I wanted to be a part of. And when I joined Leif and Jocko, the really great part about our team, I work with some incredible seasoned combat veterans. I mean, these are incredible leaders. And yet the one redeeming quality across the board that just stands out at every turn for every instructor we have here is humility. And I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of being humble. We think that the biggest quality and the most important quality of a leader is to be humble. And our instructors really follow that. And then the biggest aha moment for me was when I read the book and I really took that third section of each chapter and I applied it to me as a mother here in my home with my children, in what I consider to be my greatest leadership responsibility. So I started to see the impact of implementing these principles. I do a brief called The Barriers to Extreme Ownership, and it's really talking about what are the things that keep us from taking ownership. Things like obviously our ego, things like not feeling like these principles are for us. Things like, being afraid of the consequences when you take ownership of things, but really those barriers that keep us from taking ownership, and then how to overcome those barriers. Good leadership, it outlasts the leader. When we are good at implementing and being leaders to our team, it outlasts our need to be there as a leader. If I'm a good leader and with my kids now, when someday when they leave me and they're no longer here and they don't need me every day, they're going to be successful because of the leadership that I offered them today. So I have to recognize that there are times I'm actually getting in the way of my team doing their job and growing and being effective, because it was maybe something I always did. Taking ownership is really, as a leader, you're responsible for everything. So if your team's not accomplishing the mission, if they're not effective, they're missing deadlines, they're not understanding the mission, it's up to you as a leader to solve those problems. And when your team makes mistakes, that's on you. You don't need everyone in your organization to implement this principle effectively for it to still have a major impact. You need a couple key people that are really good at taking ownership when things go wrong and solving problems. And that creates that overlapping fields of ownership. This idea that if you're in friction with someone else in your team, whatever that might be, that in order to solve that, or if you have, a sensitive topic, you have to climb that ladder of alignment by asking earnest questions to see where on the ladder are you aligned. You need to create a culture where mistakes are accepted, where you have really good debrief and discussions around mistakes when they happen that are for the sake of solving things for moving forward. It is absolutely the magic. And I've seen it time and time again. When people when they can check their ego enough to take ownership when things go wrong, to take ownership of even the small little things, the feedback you get is incredible. All of a sudden, the shoulders of defensiveness relax, because when you have really good relationships, you can more effectively cover and move. You can communicate in a more simplified manner. You can prioritize your tasks better because you have team members that understand what you need and how to get that job done. And decentralized command is easy when you have good relationships and trust. And with tears in her eyes, she talked to them and she explained that the book saved her marriage, that her and her husband were on the brink of divorce and that they were separated. They were living in separate houses and they had signed divorce papers. And her husband read this book and said, "Hey, I think what we need to do is both read this book and try to apply these within our marriage for the next 30 days until this divorce is final, and see if we can't find some way to salvage this for the sake of our children." And they did that. They read the book and they applied the principles. And 3 years later, they're still happily married, and they ended up being able to rip up those divorce papers. I mentioned before, our mission is to help as many people learn these principles, apply them, and drive impact in their lives. And so we're looking at, every step and way that we can do that. I am passionate about this stuff because I believe in it, because I've seen it work for me and others. So, if you're hitting those barriers that we talk about for extreme ownership, go reread the book and start really cultivating that mindset, because I promise you, it really is the magic, and it can have an incredible impact in your life.